Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about the WWE Championship scene and the long winding road to get to the number one contender. But first, hit the like button for me. Likes really help. If you can't share the videos, at least like the videos. That'll help the algorithms or whatever the hell, the analytics. And subscribe, please. I know a lot of people who listen probably are not subscribers. Hit subscribe and make sure. At least just let me know that you that you listened. That would be nice. So let's talk about what took place on Raw, November the 23rd, 2020, and let's see if we can make sense of this whole thing. It was a pretty good show as far as match work was concerned, and some of the angles were really good too. So what took place was Adam Pearce was going to reward Team Raw for their shutout victory at the Survivor Series. So that meant that every member of the team is going to get an opportunity to explain why they should be the number one contender, which of course made no sense. Why should they? This is not a campaign. They shouldn't be sitting around talking about why they should be number one contender. It should have just been a match, right? I mean, this is wrestling. This was really what they should have done. So they started doing this with Sheamus making his argument that Drew McIntyre is his bestie and he was the MVP of the team. This of course led to more arguments because that's what they've been doing for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Is arguing. Matt Riddle, my God, there was so much Matt Riddle on this show with him being silly, and I still will never get over that the dirt sheets told me that Matt Riddle is supposed to be like a new serious character. No, Matt Riddle is sillier than ever. He's sillier than ever. Now, I'm gonna talk about Matt Riddle in more detail a little bit later. But here he just basically in the opening moments, he basically said that he pinned King Corbin, which, him and King Corbin have been feuding on SmackDown, which I completely forgot about. And that, now he's King Bro, and that he wants a sword. He wants to get a dope sword and a dope crown. And he says after he beats Drew McIntyre, he's going to get a sword. He should get a crown for beating Corbin, and then he should get a sword for beating McIntyre, which upset everybody else because it's real stupid. And Braun Strowman just decided to go. He just chimped out. I mean, he just went full gorilla and grabbed Adam Pearce by his lapels and started shaking him and demanding to be the number one contender. Which, if we being honest, that should have worked. And then he threw Adam Pearce to the ground, and which shook the old man up a little bit. Adam Pearce is not that old, but it shook him up. AJ Styles like, "Hey, buddy, are you okay? Hey, Adam, are you okay, buddy?" Like he was dead or something. So everybody was all fawning over Adam Pearce because he was in such bad shape. Later on, Adam Pearce claims that there will be repercussions for Braun Strowman, and that if it was up to him, he'd fire him. So apparently, Adam Pearce can't fire people, which is really weird because I'm pretty sure Pat Buck was going to fire Nia Jax. And I'm pretty sure Pat Buck and Adam Pearce have the same job, except for this was weeks ago for people who might have forgot when Pat Buck suspended Nia Jax or something like that. Apparently they have that authority, but they can't fire people because I think they're both producers. Even though I think Adam Pearce is just officially an official, whatever that means. In any event, he says that there's going to be repercussions, and essentially what he did is just decided Braun Strowman is not up for the running to be number one contender because he's being a douchebag and he's being a big old gorilla, big old chimp brain. So then Lashley slid into the scene and said, "Hey, I'm the only champion from Raw that actually won that Survivor Series," which is true. He did win. "And I should get a title shot." So then Adam Pearce said he'll think about it. Lashley slid out of the scene. They come back a little bit later, and Randy Orton shows up. And Randy Orton doesn't need to say anything. We already know what Randy Orton is there for. And then Adam Pearce talks to Randy Orton. And then we come back. And this is when we get this mini tournament where it's going to be 3 singles matches. The winners of those matches will go into a triple threat match next week for the number one contendership for the WWE Championship, which is fine. I really would have just preferred a tournament featuring all 5 of these guys, plus Randy Orton, plus Lashley, and, maybe one more guy. I can't really think of off the top of my head how many. Like, that's 8 people right there, right? No, Lashley would have been 6. Uh, Orton would have been 7. So you'd probably need one more person. Yeah, you probably need one more person. I'm pretty sure you could have thought of somebody. But anyway, it could have had an 8-man tournament, but whatever. We got a 6-man tournament or whatever. So match 1 was Sheamus versus Riddle, and this Raw was just basically a patchwork of other Raws that we've seen already. Because Riddle and Sheamus was one of the matches for Survivor Series qualifying, which means it was less than 2 months ago that we just saw this match. But this match was pretty long and it was pretty good. These two have good chemistry together, and it was a lot of good grappling from Sheamus. It was really good. I like the Avalanche Emerald Fusion from the second rope. And Riddle actually won with a wrestling technique. He reversed the cloverleaf into a cradle, got the pinfall. Everything was sweet. So I really liked that. I enjoyed that. Later on, we get Matt Riddle talking to MVP. So Matt Riddle comes up to MVP and he's talking about he got ideas for business because he heard MVP as a businessman. So he's I got ideas for business, and he starts talking about pizza flavored yogurt and brogurt and all these other asinine, stupid ideas being really annoying. And he almost cracked MVP. He almost made MVP laugh. He made me laugh when MVP said, "I'm not your bro." And then Matt Riddle was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh my God." MVP had to catch himself. And I know that, okay, let's talk about Matt Riddle a little bit right here. I saw a lot of people are really shitting on Matt Riddle. Mostly it's personal. You see a lot of people who would, under normal circumstances, find Matt Riddle to be good, a good worker, a good performer, a good personality. But they're now shitting on him because of the whole accusations that are floating around. To me, that is the worst kind of analysis that you can do. If you can't separate business from the rest of that shit, I mean, for starters, we don't even know if that stuff is true or not. Okay, it's just stuff that exists in the world. I don't know if it's true. It hasn't been proven in any sort of court of law or anything. Okay, so we should really just be judging with the characters on the screen and not necessarily going into the whole, well, I don't like the guy personally. It's like, whatever, who cares? Okay, but Matt Riddle he's over the top silly. Like, they've putting a lot of emphasis on his silliness. With the nicknames, the sword and the crown, and the whole ordeal with him and MVP. It's gotten really ridiculous. Now, it does add an extra layer to Matt Riddle because he's an MMA fighter. So we know he has the mat wrestling skills. We know he got the work skills. He needed the personality. And that's really what they're kind of focusing on by having him be silly. Is they're kind of focusing on building up his personality. But he is a moron. And I don't really like that part. That's one criticism that I saw people say, like, oh, he's not like a cool stoner like RVD. He's more like a half-baked moron. And it's like, okay, I can buy that as an excuse. But even RVD, like, I don't understand why people think stoners are cool. Like, I don't think stoners are cool. I was never one of those people who thought, like, stoners are so cool, man. Like, I never found hippies to be cool or interesting. I've always found them to be vapid. At most, they're humorous. And that's really what kind of Matt Riddle is. I get a Woodstock vibe from Matt Riddle. Like, he should be wearing one of those. I think he does wear like a a headband. Like, I think he was wearing headbands for a long time. But he reminds me of like some guy from Woodstock. But he's like super silly nowadays. But he was funny when he was messing with MVP. That was really funny. And I think that's really going to get him over. I think that, if it wasn't for this crap dangling over his head, like the sword of Damascus waiting to kill his career, I think more people would like him. So match 2 in the mini tournament was Bobby Lashley versus Keith Lee. And this match was a banger. Let's just skip to the end. All 3 matches in the tournament were badass. Lashley and MVP was something else. Okay, this was 2 big dudes. Power versus power, which usually doesn't work because you don't really want 2 guys who work almost the same kind of style. And this is where Keith Lee having an extra gear makes sense because he's able to do things like roll and evade Lashley. He's able to do, like, even though I don't like big guys doing leapfrogs and stuff like that, he's able to do that kind of stuff to avoid Lashley's strength. So Lashley can't just power him over and knock him over because he tried it. It didn't work. And if he, was rushing too much, Keith Lee would evade or he leapfrog him or something like that. So it was really cool to watch. It was basically a chess match between two big, strong guys. Because Lashley got to show off a little of his agility as well. But they were really trying to focus on Lashley's strength. They focused on it a little too much, though, because then Lashley tried his damnedest to pick up Keith Lee. He couldn't really hold him. Keith Lee is a big boy. Big boy. Lashley picked him up, had him up on his shoulders. But then he tried to run with Keith Lee on his shoulders, and it's like his knees gave out. And Lashley and Keith Lee both went head first into the ring post. Boom, boom. And you have Keith Lee's head is like a peanut M&M sitting on top of, a German chocolate cake. Like, just put one peanut M&M and sit it on top of a whole German chocolate cake. And that's basically Keith Lee. Like, his head is really small in proportion to the rest of his body. So even though his head hit the ring post, it basically his shoulder ate a lot of it. Lashley, whole head ate that joint. Like, because Lashley's head is more like a milk dud. It's a lot bigger. So Lashley busted himself open from eating that ring post. And Keith Lee was mostly okay. And they had a really good match. MVP got involved a little bit. And when the referee was distracted, he shoved Lee into the ring post again. Then Lashley went for the hurt lock. It didn't really work. Keith Lee kind of was dazed for a minute, but then as Lashley was trying to force this hurt lock on him because it just wouldn't work. MVP, then he tried a sleeper. That didn't work because Lee jumped back and smashed Lashley. Then MVP just said, I've seen enough. And he jumped in the ring, beat up Keith Lee, and got Lashley disqualified. Now, I saw some geniuses. I shouldn't look at Twitter, but I peeked just a little bit. And I saw, essentially, the Fightful account. Whoever runs the Fightful account has the worst Raw takes. And it's just horrible. And they complained about, well, that just made MVP look stupid. You cost Lashley a title match. I'm like, Lashley was about to lose. Like, he couldn't use the hurt lock, which is his move. He was about to lose. He got crushed by a 400-pound man and his head was busted open. He was about to lose. So MVP jumped into the ring and got Lashley disqualified. So at least MVP could take the heat and be like, okay, I screwed it up. And as far as, and this is what managers are supposed to do anyway. If you're a manager and you see your guy in trouble, go in there and get disqualified. I always hate when managers just basically watch their dude lose. Like, you see him in trouble, you don't do anything. Like, that's the worst kind of manager. That was the problem with Zelina Vega when she was the manager. She would be outside the ring watching Andrade and Angel Garza get knocked across the head like the Three Stooges and thrown all over the place, and she wouldn't do anything but stand there and be like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God. It's like, get in there. Go scratch some eyes. Go pull some legs. Go do something. Like, that's bad managing. MVP actually did something that made sense. He saw his guy, who is a champion, by the way, was about to get beat. So he jumped into the ring and at least helped his guy not look so bad by, getting him disqualified. And then he can, placate Lashley better. Like, dude, hey, I lost my mind. You'll get him next time. You'll get him next time. So Lashley and Keith Lee was a banger. It was pretty good. I like the finish because I like that Lashley didn't take a pinfall. I love when they actually take time to not pin the mid-card champions, which was another reason why, that was a really bad take. It's because usually they don't have no problems with just beating the mid-card champions. So then the main event, Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. Another really good match. AJ Styles working the legs, preparing for the calf killer, which is, of course, is one of his big finishers. So in this match, we get more outside interference because now you got the Fiend. The Fiend poked his head up from, he's distracted Orton a little bit. He poked his head up under the barricade, and Orton is spooked. And then the Fiend, yells in his ear from the dark or whatever. And it was a distraction. Phenomenal forearm. Really weird book match. I mean, it was really weird for them. It makes sense for the Fiend to close the show. Fiend appearance to close the show. It was a little weird because it was another distraction finish, which I hate. I hate distraction finishes. And it was a match with heel versus heel. So it was kind of hard to have somebody to root for. Except for AJ Styles has been sort of adorable lately. And I know a lot of people don't like that. I'm just going to start saying that because I know people don't like it. All right. I know people don't like it. This is wrestling. There's nobody adorable. It's like AJ Styles has been so very adorable. Being the captain of the team, the smallest man on the team, pointing at his chest, talking about he's the captain. Walking around with this gigantic guy whose name I still don't know. He's been adorable lately, him and the New Day. Anyway, AJ Styles is in the match, which makes sense. And the Fiend has Randy Orton distracted. So this is pretty good. We got the triple threat match next week will be AJ Styles versus Riddle versus Keith Lee. Now, smart money would say Keith Lee should win that match, which he should. That's my prediction. My prediction is that Keith Lee is going to win. And the match is going to be a banger. It's going to be a very good match. So that was the championship scene. There was no Drew McIntyre on the show at all. No Miz on the show at all. Even though Miz won the Battle Royal. Which he could have been the extra guy in the tournament. Or John Morrison. If you want to do a tournament, you could have just said, well, Miz won the Battle Royal, so he should get a match in the championship series or whatever. And then it could have just been a 3-week tournament where you had 4 matches tonight, 2 matches next week, and then the finals in 2 weeks. Would have been dope. But we have to deal with a triple threat match, which I absolutely hate. The only reason you have triple threat matches is because you just want somebody to take a pinfall. You don't want to burn another big one-on-one match. But I do suspect that perhaps they're going to want to do Lashley versus Lee again. Maybe for the U.S. title. Lashley doesn't have any opponents. So that really kind of tells the tale right there that it may just be Lashley versus Lee for the U.S. title, which would make, maybe AJ Styles the number 1 contender. I don't think they'll put it on Riddle yet because of the whole stuff with this accusation, these allegations. So it may just be AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, which is going to be, which would be awesome. That would be fantastic. TLC, AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. That'd be fantastic. So even though I think that Keith Lee is going to win, I would not be surprised if the Hurt Business did not come back out and try to handle the Keith Lee problem because Lashley couldn't do it by himself. So now we're going to make it a Hurt Business thing. I would be interested in that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you guys later.